What are the most disturbing bosses in Final Fantasy? Well, if you'd like to find out, consider sticking around. I think I hurt my neck. Okay, so this list comes to us from the folks at MojoPlays of Watch Mojo fame, as they have put together a list of the 10 most disturbing Final Fantasy bosses. Now, how do you categorize disturbing? I kind of feel like there's two different categories. There's the physical disturbing, a creature so vile, so disgusting, it's slimy, it's gross, filled with blood and pus, nasty. But there's the cerebral, psychological disturbing, a being that gets joy out of torturing people, manipulating people. A great example of that, Jenova from Final Fantasy VII, falls into both of those categories. Physically, super disgusting. Mentally, incredibly manipulative. So I'm very curious to see what makes it onto this list. Now, full transparency, I didn't play Final Fantasy 1 through 5 all the way when I was younger, so some of my familiarity with those characters and bosses a little wishy-washy, so I might not have much to add if they pop up on this list. But if you would like to check out the video on your own without me talking over it and stopping and starting, I'll leave a link in the description so you can watch it on your own time. But with that being said, let's get started.
This is
Jenova.
The source of everything.
It's Jenova, man. That's so disgusting, man.
welcome to MojoPlays, and the Final Fantasy series has some of the best character designs.
That's
in the
Necron's
medium,
music.
and also some of the most nightmare-inducing,
Ultimicia.
horrific boss designs ever created.
It's nightmare fuel.
Seriously, what were they on when they came up with these?
Ultima, huh? Ultima's probably going to be on the list.
Before we
You
continue,
are not one
be
of
sure to
us.
subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get
What do you got?
about our latest
What's
video.
first?
Tonberry.
Tonberry, yeah. You gotta have a Tonberry on the list. Stab.
Tonberry might just be the most unassuming enemy in all of Final
They're
Fantasy.
so cute.
But behind its creepy blank yellow eyes and dark robes lies one of the deadliest creatures in the entire series.
Oh, yeah.
Wielding nothing more than a lantern and a simple butcher knife, Tonberry has been terrifying Final Fantasy players for decades. This seemingly simple creature is a damage sponge, and none of your attacks seem to slow his labored pace towards you to poke you with his simple knife, resulting in instant death. These little soulless bastards are relentless in their pursuit of the player, and you are given very little time to take them down before they reach you, inflicting immediate and unblockable
That damn
death.
chef's
While
knife.
Tonberry appears as a boss numerous times, some games have become so brazen as to make them a random encounter, furthering their murderous machinations by giving you no warning.
You did it, Cloud! I now dub thee the new king of the Tonberries.
Yeah, Tonberries are great because, oh man, they look so cute. There's these little green guys, they got these yellow eyes and a little coat, and they just waddle around with their little lantern, and then they pull out a knife and shank you. They are terrifying. Sometimes they're bosses, sometimes they're regular enemies. One of my favorite Tonberries is in Final Fantasy VIII. I think it's the Tonberry King. The way you gotta figure out how to find him and then you acquire him as your girlfriend is super cool. Another great honorable mention are the Tonberries in Final Fantasy XVI, specifically in the Rising Tide DLC. There's a super cool side quest where this dude in a village is sick. He's straight up dying and he doesn't know why. So you do some investigations and you come across this altar, and Tonberries have used black magic to torture this guy and make him sick. It's terrifying. Then you track them down and you have to fight groups of them until you get to the Tonberry King. And the Tonberries in 16, they look a little different. They're a little longer, lankier. They're a little bit taller. Their chef's knife is this huge blade. You get into this super cool battle with the Tonberry King. He's relentless. It's such a cool side quest. I really, really love that version of the Tonberry King and those Tonberries. It's super cool. But the one thing I really love is that when you watch somebody who's new to Final Fantasy, they've never played one before, they don't know any of the enemies, and then they come across a Tonberry and they all have the same reaction. Oh my god, these things are so cute. But in reality, us fans know, run away. They're terrifying. I'm gonna get you.
Necron, Final Fantasy IX.
Necron visually is so cool. I mean, he's got huge boobies. He's got a platform coming out of his boobies. He's got biceps. He's got a six-pack. He's got this cool light-up ring. I feel like Necron would do really well on RuPaul's Drag Race. Snatched. You know? Necron eats. No crumbs left. He's super cool.
Necron is the representation of death within Final Fantasy IX, and just one look at its appearance absolutely fills you with the dread of death.
Such a great theme song, too.
Necron's angelic appearance is offset by its vapid, empty expression, coupled with its imposing nature and near constant disapproving demeanor. Necron seems disgusted by the party's mere existence. The fact that Necron summons the party up to his level only further establishes his dominance over the party. Necron's ethereal appearance is full of biblical references such as Ezekiel's description of wheels within wheels, and makes the whole be not afraid thing much more understandable. But this time, be afraid. Along with Necron's unsettling appearance, he can unleash several devastating and screen-filling god-tier attacks.
Oh yeah. This is not the end. I am eternal. That's some Freddy Krueger stuff right there. As long as there'll be music, we'll be coming back again. So Necron is interesting because when you get to Necron, it's like, who is this dude? He just comes out of nowhere. I just beat Kuja. I thought Kuja was the big bad. Now I gotta fight this blue guy. I'm confused. But Necron actually does make sense. Like they say in the video, Necron is pretty much the embodiment of death, but also nihilism. And that's something that the characters in Final Fantasy IX have been dealing with. A character like Vivi is questioning his fate. What is he? When will he cease to exist? He comes to accept that. Kuja has this incredibly nihilistic view of himself and the world, and I was created for one purpose, and that's to destroy. We're all gonna die anyway. What's the point of anything? A character like Zidane admittedly goes through a very truncated version of figuring out who he is and what his purpose is once he finds out that he was created by Garland. All this crazy stuff with the genomes. He snaps out of it with the help of his party, but that is a very popular recurring theme throughout that game. So having Necron be this being that was maybe within the crystal, that maybe is kind of taking on some of those emotions that maybe Kuja had of death and nihilism, it does start to make more sense. Now what's funny is that Necron is kind of what you would call boss inflation. And that was a phrase coined by the Final Fantasy VII Remake devs, where they describe boss inflation as you're playing through a game, you're fighting this boss, and you beat them, and oh wait, turns out there's something bigger and badder behind them. Necron is kind of boss inflation when you really think about it. Also, I think technically Ultimicia from 8 could maybe be considered boss inflation because you start off with Sorceress Edea, then there's Adele, and then it ends up being Ultimicia to a degree. So I just thought that was interesting. From a gameplay standpoint, pray to the RNG gods that you get a somewhat kind Necron that won't hit you with every single status effect possible. I've seen some people fight Necron, they get lucky, he's relatively laid back, and then I see other people fight him and it's like Neutron Ring, followed by a blue shockwave, followed by Grand Cross, followed by 2 spells, and then another Grand Cross. He's insane, but his theme song is so good. Necron is super cool. When you really think about like what he represents, yeah, he makes sense. Yeah, he comes out of nowhere. Yeah, it's boss inflation. But he fits the theme of 9.
Cloud of Darkness.
Cloud of Darkness, eh?
When traversing the location simply known as the World of Darkness, you expect to run into all manner of horrific, nightmare-inducing creatures. But even with all of that, the Cloud of Darkness still manages to be the most unsettling. Appearing as a woman emerging from a cloud, the design is eerie in its simplicity. She appears almost as a science experiment gone wrong, with half her body constantly being engulfed by the cloud, and
2
multiple
derpy little
snake-like
snakes
creatures emerging from the void behind her. No matter what version of Final Fantasy III you fight her in, her design is so iconic it hasn't needed any updating in 3 decades. Orphan.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't played through most of the earlier Final Fantasies, like pre-6, but I'm familiar enough with the final bosses and the enemies to kind of have an idea of like what they're talking about. What I will say, Cloud of Darkness in the Dissidia NT franchise, she can get it. She looks good. Give me that Cloud of Darkness.
Final Fantasy 13.
Also, yeah, 13. I didn't make it that far into 13, so I'm not familiar with Orphan. But from what I hear, apparently this is a really difficult boss battle. Dude is all side profile. Creepy.
Just when you think things are finally over, something like Orphan rises up as the true final boss and completely destroys your perception of not only the game, but what is possible.
It's physically throwing me off because it's like
make HR Geiger proud,
this way, but then it's got a hand out that way and then this way. It's confusing.
Comprising multiple faces and multiple body parts, Orphan looks as though it emerged from the deepest parts of a cosmic nightmare, combining elements of both heaven and hell in its creation. Full of claws, clockworks, and angelic wings, the design is both reassuring and unsettling depending on which half you're looking at. Thankfully, Orphan's second form
did that say
isn't as disturbing,
disire?
but nothing will erase that image from our minds. Ultimicia.
Ultimicia. Speaking of, she can get it. This version of the character, woo! Especially in the remaster, I'm horned up right now. Excuse me.
Final Fantasy VIII. The best villains of the Final Fantasy.
I mean, like, look at that. Look at that. It's just like, come on. She looks so cool though too. Like her hair coming out like horns. Then she's got like the long strands here. A very elegant final boss until you get to like the very cosmic horror version of her at the end.
Series are the most unassuming. Those who hide their true form until the very end and just traumatize an entire generation of gamers with their transformation. This is absolutely the case with Final Fantasy VIII's Ultimicia, as her ladylike alter ego is dropped in favor of her true time and
when she junctions to Griever.
Much like every other final big bad in the Final Fantasy series, Ultimicia has multiple forms, but it's her final stage that is truly the most cosmic body horror.
Yeah, that is nasty.
Ascending from the darkness, her face has now been replaced with a void.
I just realized. Okay. Human Ultimicia is the feet. How did I never notice that? I was so consumed with the upper half and that faceless void of just energy, which is disgusting. I never realized that, yeah, regular Ultimicia is like down here like this as the feet. I never noticed that before. That's super sick.
Wings have exploded from her back, and her arms have been stretched to an unnatural length. The final encounter is not only one we'll never forget, but also one that will haunt us for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, Ultimicia is sick. That final battle, dude, like one of my favorite final boss themes in the Extreme, that build up with like the piano and it's super creepy and then it drops. Dun 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 dun. It's so good. And then fighting her in this endless space void, she just shows up as this cosmic entity talking about time compression and ending everything. It's super sick. She is a really cool final boss, but that lack of a face is so disturbing. It's just this orb of time compression basically. But she's such a super cool final boss. Again, the Extreme I think is such a good final boss theme. A lot of people talk about One Winged Angel, which is super great, but I think that the Extreme is a really, really worthy follow-up for a final boss theme. It's super good.
There is not only one we'll never forget.
Also, I can't believe I never noticed that she was
for the rest of our lives.
the feet.
Kefka Palazzo. Final Fantasy VI. Not only is Kefka one of the most unassuming villains in the entire franchise, he's also the only one to successfully follow through on his plan to destroy the world.
Hang on.
He's also the only one to successfully follow through on his plan to destroy the world.
Kind of. Well, yeah, there's an asterisk there. We'll get to that in a second.
No one suspects the clown, and that worked in Kefka's favor.
Iconic sound there,
After
that laugh.
successfully destroying everything, Kefka believes himself a god, and as his numerous forms become even more unhinged as the fight goes on, it's anyone's guess as to what his final transformation will bring. However, it's this final form that is by far the most unnerving. Emerging from the heavens as a full-blown deity.
Also, I think they spelled Kefka's name wrong in the video.
Perfection. And his angelic appearance, coupled with the sadistic
they put an
clown
A instead
grin
of
on
an
his
E.
face, is more disturbing than all his other forms combined. In the end, it's the clown who has the last laugh.
Yeah, Kefka is another one that falls into the physically disturbing. I don't like clowns. I don't trust them. But also manipulative and just straight up psychotic. Like they say, he wins. You get the world of ruin. Like, he successfully gets through that plan, and then you have to get your party back together to go actually like fight him. And then what does Kefka do? What a blasphemous thing to do. Something he wouldn't mind is turning himself into a god. That fits so well with the character. As far as like another villain who gets technically what they want, they win. They don't destroy the world. Spoiler alert. Arden from Final Fantasy 15. Technically, he gets what he wants. He plunges the world into darkness for like 10 years. He ends the Lucius Kylan bloodline, but most importantly, he ceases to exist, which is all he's wanted. Noctis is the only person that can put him away for good, and that's what he truly wants, is to be at peace. So technically, even though the world survives, Noctis dies. And so does Arden, but that is Arden winning in a way. Like, Noctis and the Chocobros do win, but so does Arden. I love 15 so much. But, you know, Kefka, again, like, is the embodiment of just psycho energy, insanity, turning himself into a god. That's a very Kefka thing to do again.
Forms combined. In the end, it's the clown who has the last laugh. Ultima, Final Fantasy 16.
Ultima.
The incantation primed, but one task remains: to empty the vessel.
Ultima acts as the man behind the curtain, pulling the strings throughout the events of Final Fantasy XVI. And naturally, anytime he appears on screen, his general appearance and demeanor is enough to make your skin crawl. His cold and callous speech only adds to his overall icky and unappealing nature and aesthetic. His dark, soulless eyes and expressionless face, along with his multi-limbed, not exactly humanoid appearance, is made even more grotesque once he begins his transformations, each adding more limbs and extremities than the last. As his power increases, so do his transformations, growing even more elaborate and extreme as he attempts to defeat Clive, all while becoming more and more unhinged as he battles for his believed superiority over humanity.
The world you seek is but a fantasy! The only fantasy here is yours.
I love that line. Get him, Ben. Okay, so Ultima I wasn't crazy about as a final villain in 16. He's, for me, the least interesting of the villains in that game. I think you could have had a version of 16 that didn't have an Ultima or those gods, and maybe Barnabas was like the final big bad who got so power hungry that he physically loses himself and transforms into some sort of creature. Maybe that would have been too cliche, I don't know. But as a villain, Ultima is a little dry, especially with the way that he speaks, which is not a knock on the voice actor, that's all writing and direction, but it's very monotone. Like, I went to the store today and I forgot the most important item on my list: baby wipes. It's just not very interesting. Physically, his base design, where he's got the multiple arms, his eyes look super creepy and unsettling. That version of Ultima is cool looking. Physically, he kind of reminds me of Necron to a degree. But as a character, I just wasn't really that interested in him. The final fight with him, though, is super cool. You know, Ben Starr gets to deliver that really great line of, "This will be your like Final Fantasy." It's so cool. But other than that, like, I wasn't too crazy about Ultima.
The only fantasy here is yours, and we shall be its final.
That's such a great line. He said the thing.
Yunalesca,
Lady Yunalesca. Speaking of, she can get it.
Final Fantasy X.
I will free you before you can drown in your sorrow. It is better for you to die in hope than to live in despair. Let me be your liberator.
Much like Ultimicia,
Liberate
you
me.
would never suspect beneath her beautiful appearance lies the stuff of cosmic eldritch nightmares. Encountered numerous times throughout the journey, Yunalesca always presented herself as cold, but still somewhat welcoming. With the end in sight, however, the facade drops and her mask comes off completely. Her first form is nothing too remarkable, while her second stage adds strange tendrils elevating her above the battlefield. Her final form, however, would give Cthulhu pause. At the end of those tendrils is a hideous face wearing Yunalesca's body as a hair accessory. With an enormous snake head complete with an enlarged tongue and eyes, Yunalesca's final form will never let you look at a snake the same way again. Exdeath.
Yeah, Lady Yunalesca is pretty disturbing in her final form. It's essentially Medusa. You're fighting a gigantic Medusa head with snakes for hair. Thankfully, these have skull faces. I'm not a big fan of snakes. They kind of freak me out. I'm getting a little bit better when I mow the lawn and I find a garden snake out there. I'm not too scared. But these are disgusting. But as a, like, creepy entity, yeah. The eyes in particular, they gave her snake eyes. Incredibly disgusting. The fight itself also very tricky if you don't go in prepared. She will zombie the hell out of you, and you got to figure a way to kind of get around that.
Enlarged tongue and
Exdeath. Again, not super familiar with
don't let the early
all the
encounters
forms
with
of
Exdeath
Exdeath.
fool you. What originally appears to be a standard boss is truly anything but, and its true final form is enough to give H.P. Lovecraft
He's like
nightmares.
a poop worm.
Naturally, as the final boss, Exdeath has multiple forms, each somehow worse than the last. Initially appearing as an enormous cosmic worm composed of corpses, its many faces contorted in agony, and its tail stretching out into the stars, the worst is yet to come.
It looks like Freddy Krueger. The main part of the body near the stomach area, there's like the witch nose coming out, the teeth, the eyes. That's some straight up Freddy Krueger stuff right there.
After defeating this first form, Exdeath returns from the depths of the
This
void,
one's pretty cool.
re-emerging as something that is almost indescribable. With multiple bodies seemingly fused together, Exdeath's final stage is enough to drive anyone mad the longer they look at it and attempt to understand what they're seeing. The fact that you're locked in conflict with this thing, in space no less, is an existential crisis we don't even want to consider.
That's a cool design, though. And the fact that he's just gunning at you. It's like, I'm going to get you. That's cool.
Jenova Dreamweaver.
Jenova. Oh, there's a lot to say about this one.
Final Fantasy VII Remake.
This is
The source of everything.
That's disgusting.
As an alien creature from the great beyond, Jenova already had an otherworldly cosmic horror aesthetic. But while the original design of Final Fantasy VII was limited by the hardware, the remake was able to fully realize the creature's nightmarish potential. An amalgamation of body parts, Jenova Dreamweaver is an eldritch horror become real. Her
They like the word eldritch. I get it, you know, cosmic horror and whatnot.
monstrous form, complete with tentacles, is horrifying enough. But the arena itself is also alive with the flesh of Jenova and filled with her horrific screams. Reminiscent of John Carpenter's The Thing, the entire encounter
That's
is
basically
so
what it is.
unsettling, the characters themselves even question if it's real or not. In the end, while we appreciate the visual upgrade, we prefer the old retro Jenova Dreamweaver for being much less horrific.
Poor guy.
What was the most
Okay, so that's it. Yeah, Jenova, man. Specifically, the 7 Remake Trilogy Jenova is super cool. Obviously, like they mentioned in the original OG FF7, there's only so much you can do with character and enemy designs. Can't really super flesh them out and detail them. Oh, that's disgusting. But is there like a really good shot of the face? Let me see here. I'll mute it. Oh, that's disgusting, man. Look at the skin. It's all slimy too. Yeah, that is pure horror. The way that they've been able to flesh out the character design of Jenova is so cool, but there's also some backstory to it that actually does make sense. And I remember seeing this on Reddit a long time ago, so my like actual ideas and like memory of what was said is a bit fuzzy. But there's a reason why Jenova looks the way she does in the remake trilogy. And if I remember correctly from Rebirth, the Gi talk about Jenova landing on their planet. I think they call it a star. And what does Jenova do? It lands, it tries to blend in, it tries to overthrow people, it causes all kinds of chaos. That happened with the Gi. The Gi, as well as Jenova, would then flee that planet and head to Gaia. But why does Jenova look like this? It's intrinsically tied to the Gi. If you remember the Cave of the Gi, the section after the Ginatok battle where Ginatok is guiding the party through the underground section, if you look at some of those skulls and the skeletons on the ground of the Gi, it looks very similar, if not identical, to the face of Jenova, the way that it looks in the remake trilogy. And you see it way more in Rebirth, specifically in that final battle against Jenova. Now, when it comes to the timeline of like when the Gi fled their planet and Jenova followed, it's a little wishy-washy, which kind of throws a wrench into whether or not that actually did happen. But I really love that idea of Jenova looks this way because the last thing it tried to take the form of was the Gi. But again, you know, it lands on the planet and then it tries to blend in with the Cetra. It tries to overthrow the Cetra, chaos ensues, so maybe there's some wishy-washy stuff there. But the idea does have some merit because it does look a lot like those Gi skeletons, which is super cool. As far as the actual design of Jenova in this remake trilogy, it's super creepy. Just look at this thing, man. There's muscles and tendons and veins all popping out and tentacles, and it's so cool. It's disgusting. But I love the version we see in Rebirth. That final version, I'm forgetting the full name of it. Jenova, is it Lifebringer, Lifeclinger, something like that. Very unsettling. But that's essentially what it is. It's John Carpenter's The Thing. It's this cosmic entity, this space creature that tries to blend in and take the form of whatever's around it to manipulate its way into that society and cause problems. And I can't wait to see what they do with Jenova in part 3. How many more Jenova battles are we going to have? Obviously, there's the final showdown with Jenova before we get to Sephiroth, but we know that things are a little different now in the remake trilogy and how they're approaching all that stuff. We've already fought Bizarro Sephiroth in the form of Sephiroth Reborn. So what is there really left other than Safer? What other tricks does Jenova have up its sleeve? So it's pretty cool. Very creepy, disgusting, unsettling. Tendrils, tentacles everywhere. But I just thought that theory of Jenova and the Gi being connected, and that's why Jenova probably looks the way it does, is pretty interesting. Whether or not it's actually accurate, I don't know, but it's pretty cool. But with that being said, that seems to be the video. I think Jenova was the last one on the list here. Yeah, let me know in the comments down below, what do you think are some of the most disturbing creatures or bosses in the Final Fantasy universe? This is a pretty solid list, I would say. Tonberry's physically not disturbing, but what they do to you, incredibly disturbing. For me personally, as someone who does not like snakes, an honorable mention, the Midgard Zormer, the original one from FF7, as well as the one you fight in Rebirth. That's nightmare fuel for me. It's essentially one large fire-breathing cobra that disguises itself as an island. Terrified the heck out of me as a kid, still coming to terms with it as an adult, but that would be an honorable mention for me. Let me know in the comments down below, what is your scariest, most disturbing monster from Final Fantasy? I am Curious Corduroy. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.